All right, I'm a little tired, a little wired, and I think I deserve a little appreciation.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema Podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memory, we grab a copy off the shelf, we pop it in our VCR, and we see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Howdy-ho.
And together we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane.
Now, Justin, I want to start off this podcast by thanking a kind of a, I'm not going to say a friend of the podcast, but an inspiration to this podcast, and his name is Kevin Costner. I want to thank him for, directing another, giant epic Western and releasing it onto the world and having it end with a whimper.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah, Horizon looked like a interesting movie.
Yeah.
But it sounded a little overstuffed, maybe, with really good visuals. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And but a story that probably tried to take in too big a scope and maybe didn't catch on to the audiences of today. And if you're hearing this podcast months in the future, you'll this movie may not even be remembered. But anyway. Yeah. There you go.
Well, at least we'll have something to make fun of 40 years from now, Mike.
That's right. That's our, yeah. So I already got a podcast ready to go.
Yeah. So the elephant in the room is out there, Mike. So let's go ahead and address that first. So we want to apologize to our listening audience. We're a little bit behind.
Oh.
We were supposed to release an episode yesterday. I guess that begs the question, Mike, what's going on? Why are we behind? So, me and Mike want to formally say to our audience lovingly, it's none of your damn business. No, we kid. So me and Mike got caught up in the summer rush. I started a new job, and Mike was backpacking across Europe, I think, right, Mike? Was that the last?
Yeah, one of those wild madcap trips. Just, get in touch with the world.
So we couldn't figure out a way to make it work in time, so we're sorry. That was our summer break. So we're going to release this on a regular Sunday, and then we'll
make it up to you.
We'll make it up to you. Yeah. So
we're going to pile the movies on you. This was our part of our summer rush. We'll call it. This is going to be.
So we intend to get back on a regular release schedule, guys. So just cool your jets. We're here to help you through this oppressive heat here in the States this year. That's the other thing. It's just too damn hot to do anything, Mike. Jeez.
Yeah. So watch movies would be a good alternative.
That's all you can really do. So. Yeah. As I mentioned, where we live, it's particularly atrocious, but it's been consistently 98 degrees Fahrenheit for 2.5, 3 weeks straight. And to our friends, our international audience, that's 37°C. If you've done the math in your head, I think we're the only country that uses Fahrenheit, Mike.
Looks that way, yeah. All I've heard lately is Celsius.
So it's hot. And just speaking of which, Mike, speaking of international, we pushed up to 36 countries reached with this stupid podcast last week. So,
all right. How about let's hear for Indonesia.
Here for Argentina, actually.
Argentina.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
good luck in the Copa America tournament.
There's nothing else going on in Argentina.
No.
Got the Copa. All right. So, another thing going on in the United States that our international audience might not be aware of is we're celebrating, or just recently got off the celebration of our little birthday, our country's birthday, the 4th of July. And it's essentially like every other thing in America. It's an excuse to just drink and have some sort of pyrotechnic display at your major holidays, to the point where it's almost a nuisance, a public nuisance anymore. I hate this holiday.
Wow.
Because in my neighborhood, at least, the fireworks go until the wee hours of the morning, 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks after the holiday for some reason. And I've got dogs, Mike, and they don't like fireworks, right? And they have their own form of PTSD. So anytime I see the 4th coming up, I panic and I dread it. Yeah. One of the things we use to kind of offset the impact of those fireworks is we watch a very, very loud movie at its fullest volume settings to try to...
Bruckenheimer
came right through the tip of our tongues. But we have a tradition where we put in a big, loud, voracious movie, hopefully that our dogs will be distracted by that. And that movie has historically been our feature this week, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yay, a remake.
A lot of people don't know that. Michael will get into that here in a little bit. So I think we've talked a little bit too much already. So let's just kind of get into the movie itself. So this was directed by a guy named Dominic Sena, who did a lot of Janet Jackson music videos back when MTV did those things. He moved on to do movies like California, which is not too bad.
Yeah.
And then he did the Swordfish, Mike.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so he's his career trajectory has followed suit since then. It was written by H.B. Halicki, who was the star of the original Gone in 60 Seconds from 1974. And if you've never seen that movie, gang, check it out. It looks like the Sabotage video by the Beastie Boys. It's got to pull a lot of inspiration from that, but a great 70s grinder B-movie flick. Well received at the time, had a lot of notoriety for the car chase scenes at that time. It's interesting about HB here, Mike. He actually was killed in the filming of the sequel to this movie. And his widow was actually came on as an executive producer to this movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of sad. It's written by a guy named Scott Rosenberg, who we know him as the winner from the Sneaky Bad Movie Awards for this film. He's also responsible for...
he's got a weird spot. Yeah, he's got a real spotty kind of record too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's Con Air. Kangaroo Jack.
Okay.
Venom.
Right,
and the upcoming and unasked for Dirty Dozen remake that's coming out next year. Mike, he penned that as well. What the irony here is that there were artistic differences between the director and Scott Rosenberg on this film, and he actually ended up leaving. And our buddy little J.J. Abrams came in uncredited and finished ghostwriting this script as well, just like he did Con Air, Mike. So
that is so weird.
So maybe that Star Wars debacle isn't so much of a surprise anymore. Maybe we got it wrong. I don't know. It had a budget of $90 million, Mike.
Good gosh.
And
for 2000, that's
for
pretty
2000, that's one way. And its release date, as you said, like, was summer, June 9th, 2000.
Wow, 24 years ago. Goodness.
So this movie is by definition a B movie, as in it not be good, but it did have a quick pace, quick plot, and some interesting actors to kind of push it along the way. So, Mike, you want to run us through the pit row of this movie as well?
Good one. Yeah, this is the movie that was bold enough to have Frances Fisher and Grace Zabriskie in the same movie. They look so similar, and yet their roles were so small in this movie. I was surprised.
Both in Twin Peaks, I think, maybe?
I think so, yeah. And maybe both in Big Love. I know Frances Fisher does a lot of Clint Eastwood stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, your main character is Nic Cage, of course, who, again... this is our I don't know how many movies we've done of him now, but this is our second time where he's had brother issues.
I do. Too many.
There you go.
Yeah.
And instead of Castor Troy or whatever his name was, this little brother is in trouble with you get it.
Yeah, this little piggy stole cars.
This little pig, yeah, exactly. But yeah, Nic Cage is in it, so you'll get your meme moments. Angelina Jolie, who is on the poster of this movie, and you're gonna have to help. Here's where I didn't know. I did zero research, Justin, as per usual. But
that's why I put you on the payroll. Like,
what was she? I know she was in Girl Interrupted, but was she famous before this movie came out? Like, why was she featured so prominently in the marketing?
Tomb Raider.
Okay, so Tomb Raider was before this. There goes my memory. Okay, so yeah.
No, I'm wrong. Tomb Raider was 2001. I thought it was 98.
I thought so too. Yeah, I don't. But anyway, I guess in the watching this movie, I was surprised that her role was as limited and downplayed as it was.
Yeah.
She looked like one of those twins from the second Matrix movie in this one, and she looked really weird. And I know it was part of her thing even back then, was that she was quirky and odd. And, and she was really playing on that in this movie. You have your a-hole cops in this one, played by Timothy Olyphant and Delroy Lindo, who, we saw him in Congo doing a fantastic sesame cake accent. Right?
Sesame cake connoisseur.
Stop eating my sesame cake.
That's right. Uh, and then you have your like
Stop eating my sesame cake!
quirky side characters, like Giovanni Ribisi, who's playing the brother, who basically is the same role he played in Friends as Phoebe's younger brother.
Right.
And
the postman.
And the postman, the bad teeth guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you have like Chi McBride, and these younger guys. They had a dude from Independence Day, little kid, the one who played one of what's his face's.
Yeah, James Duvall.
Yeah. He was, the kid in Independence Day that didn't believe in his
right
his drunk dad, stupid Randy Quaid.
He was mostly right. Let's be honest.
He was. And then you had a neat pairing of Scott Conn, who who got to play with Robert Duvall. So you had James Caan's son playing with Robert Duvall. That was kind of neat to me. I don't know why I thought that was interesting, but Robert Duvall is playing the Robert Duvall kind of role. It was Days of Thunder kind of all over again in a way.
Killer mustache here though.
Yes, the slick back hair too, man. He must have gotten into some of Michael Corleone's pomade, but he looked really slick. Little known fact: Scott Conn and Chi McBride team up later in Hawaii Five-0. So,
that's correct. Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
So principal players, pretty much. You had some other familiar faces in this movie, but those are your main characters.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Just a few notes on that cast. So the bad guy here, Ray Calitri.
Oh, I forgot about Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah. So what's interesting about him is he was not entirely famous at this point, but he went on to do Doctor Who, and that fan base is rabid. And he claims that he dreads his fame because now people just shout out to him, "Hey, you were in Gone in 60 Seconds and you were shite." And he says, "I know I was." That's usually his stock response, which I think is funny. A couple other notes on the shooting here. The Shelby Mustang is featured prominently here. They're named Eleanor, Mike, and we'll get to why they have female names here in a little bit. They actually made 7 of those during filming. 5 were totaled during the course of the shoot. And they had 2 left over. One they gave to Nic Cage, and then they did give the other one to Jerry Bruckheimer. So I'm thinking more he took it as opposed to it was given to him.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did he give it to that? Who was the goggles Faisano guy that was in Days of Thunder or whatever it was? Who was that guy? It was like he was the assistant director, right? A producer that starred as like a race car driver. Who was that guy's name that he worked with Bruckheimer? Do you remember? It wasn't Scott. It wasn't Tony Scott, but he had he had a really funny name in Days of Thunder, and I figured he was a car. Bruckheimer must have been a car file or loved cars at that point.
Andrew Benedetti, played by producer Don Simpson, is
Simpson. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That
if he were alive, he would have took that car.
He had already passed away in 2000. That's a shame.
Yeah. So most of the driving here was done by Nic Cage for the most part. There's very few scenes where he didn't obviously make that final jump there at the end, but about 90% of the driving was done by Nick. Did a lot of training with some of the film's technical team. So
I figured Sandra Bullock did the jump.
Yeah. The irony here is that too slow, Mike. The irony here is that Nicolas Cage's Porsche was stolen at the completion of this film.
Oh.
So he plays a car thief, and then the irony is that someone stole his car. They police found it 2 months later in the bottom of a lake. Which I find funny, and I can't explain why.
You can't. That's where like fact is funnier than fiction.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up sometimes. So this was relatively big. The year 2000, Mike, they kind of warmed up the box office with Battlefield Earth that spring. Some other big movies that came out prior to this. In May 24th, a few weeks earlier, you had Mission Impossible 2. That was the John Woo, Tom Cruise collaboration there. On June 2nd, you had Big Mama's House. Shakespeare. On June 9th, you had this movie, of course, and the week after, you had Shaft, another 70s B movie remake. So,
of course,
top movies that year were The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, Mission Impossible 2, Gladiator. I saw the trailer for Gladiator 2. I have thoughts. I have opinions.
Yeah.
Perfect Storm and Meet the Parents. So
Okay.
that was the big box office for that year.
Yeah, I think after I saw Battlefield Earth, I was away from the theater.
I kind
for
of swore
a good
off
few
that.
months.
That theory we have about the year 2000 being, when it all started. I think that it's all here. The data's here.
I think a lot of odd year movies are better than even year movies. I would like to look this up one day. It's kind of like the Star Trek movie theory that all the even movies.
All the evens are good. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the opposite. I think all the odd years from like 1990 on are better than evens.
I see a Grumpy Nostalgia podcast special.
I might actually starting maybe with Star Wars in '77. We'll go back to that far. But yeah, that's something I might dig into.
Please don't burden yourself with too much work for the show, Mike. I wouldn't want to.
I don't want to burn out from too much.
I don't want to push the threshold of
I know.
Right.
Thank you.
So some other lame stuff going on in 2000. You had a lot of crap rock. You had Creed, Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls. You had a lot of crap hip hop. You had the Cisco, BB Mac, Eminem, and you had a lot of crap
Thong
pop.
song. Yeah. Thong song.
You had a lot of crap pop music too, with the NSYNC, Britney Spears, and Hanson, while sharing time on the major charts. Some other cool things about 2000, Mike, one of my favorite stories, and I'll raise this story every time I get an opportunity to do so. I don't know why. McCall's Magazine, Mike, for those who don't remember what magazines were, they're kind of like a website that you could like
hold in your hand.
Yeah. So McCall's Magazines had been out since 1873. And it was purchased by Rosie O'Donnell to start Rosie O Magazine.
Oh, no.
Rosie Magazine. And it went defunct 1 year later. So 125 years worth of publications tanked after 1 year after Rosie took that over. So nice job there. One of the cast members of this movie, Angelina Jolie, married Billy Bob this year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So,
Porky.
it's weird that those two kids didn't figure out a way to make it work, Mike.
And
if they can't make it work, what hope is there for us? For any of us?
If Cher and Greg Allman couldn't make it work out, I don't think anybody could.
It's true. This is the year that Heinz famously introduced green ketchup, Mike.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
Even with my knack for odd foods, I couldn't stomach trying this. I still see it on the shelves today, green and purple and all that. I don't know.
Did it? Okay. I didn't have it tie in of fried green tomatoes or anything. Did it?
No, it was just green ketchup.
Just
very successful. There were 943 million CDs sold in 2000. So about 10% of those sitting in my closet right now.
Yeah. Gathering dust, most likely.
If anybody would like a 5,000 piece postmodern rock, punk rock, heavy metal CD collection, give me a call. Let's negotiate. Facebook Marketplace, hit me up. This was the year that MapQuest came out, Mike. So you could drive her into a lake just because your computer told you to. MapQuest was the worst because I remember printing it out and trying to use it.
Oh yeah.
And it's weird because I took several trips as a young man. With all I had in the car was an atlas. Like, remember, we could read a map.
Yeah, remember how to fold those maps up.
Yeah, and it's amazing because now I get frustrated. I even iMaps on my phone just to get around my neighborhood that I actually know. It's just to be informed of like traffic or stupid, alternative routes. But I get frustrated when I don't have that. So we've gotten really soft. I could also change my own tire back then. That was fun. So speaking of driving around, not going anywhere, I think we should probably start talking about this movie, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get hectic.
All right, so Mike, I if you would indulge me, I think it's really important that you and me kind of mirror what they did in the movie here. I'd like for us to just like sit together in quiet meditation before our journey and play the Low Rider by War to motivate us. So if you'll indulge me. All right, never mind.
Indulge.
All right.
I got to put on my black leather coat.
All right, let's get going. Mike, hit the button. The movie credits here, Mike, I knew we were in trouble right away because...
It's a Bruckheimer font.
It's a Bruckheimer font. It's the same kind of start every time. And they there are 60 songs in this movie, Mike.
Oh my God.
And it's 2 hours and 7 minute runtime. That's a song every, 15, 30 seconds. They start a new song. And they start, there's a little exposition to kind of show you what's going on in still frame photo form. And
it was instantly annoying. I wrote that down because it bled into this like Prodigy,
Yeah.
trance rock kind of music, and I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" But then, like you say,
Yeah.
then you later hear "Lowrider" by War, and it's like, okay, and then like these, very weird, off-putting. That's all. That's all.
So there's a couple things I noticed with the credits. One is it's a veiled attempt at exposition because they kind of show you the stories and all that. But the thing that always hits me about movies, probably even to this day, I don't think they've solved this riddle yet. Photoshopping actors' faces into photos. There's some really bad Photoshop here.
It looked like real.
And I think this is probably before Photoshop
pasting.
was a program. But it's I challenge anybody to show me physical evidence. This is a call to action to our listening audience. If you can find any kind of physical visual evidence of a good photo of like aged photo of a celebrity, I want to see that. So I don't think any movie has ever figured that out.
You don't think Nic Cage and Giovanni Ribisi got together in like 1985?
Well, there's one photo where Nicolas Cage's head is disproportionately sized.
Yeah. He's angry too in every picture.
It's like
the last one.
I think it's the cast. It's still photo from like when Peggy Sue got married. His character,
yeah, and Valley Girl.
Yeah, it was horrible. All right, but there's plenty more to talk about than just the opening credits here. So let's move on. So it opens up with this like heist scene where Giovanni Ribisi and a couple of screwball kids are trying to steal a Porsche.
They had the names from Twister, like the Freb and Mirror and Tech Guy. It's like,
well, they're cool. They're cool car thieves. They have aliases, cool. Mike. Yeah. So the art of successful burglary is being inconspicuous and the cat burglary type thing. But so Kip just decides to smash the window of this LA Hollywood Boulevard Porsche dealer with a brick. He jumps in the car, hot wires it, and then drives the car through the glass very inconspicuously, I might add. And we find out later that these guys were tasked by the villain here, played by
Eccleston.
Christopher Eccleston. He plays this guy named Roy Calitri, Manchester's favorite, apparently. And he's been tasked to steal 50 cars for this mob kingpin. And so that they obviously they cause a scene and get a bunch of cop cars to chase them. And of course, being brilliant criminals, they drive right back to the warehouse where they're fencing all these vehicles and put all this heat, and now they have to bail out. So that gets all the bad guys really mad, obviously. And the fallout of that is that there's a price on little Kip's head now and the rest of his crew because they compromised this car theft thing. So the next scene is our favorite actor, Will Patton, Mike.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him.
So he's one of the guys in the crew that's boosting these cars, and he makes an impassioned plea to Nicolas Cage, who's running a go-kart track at a gas station.
Memphis Reigns.
Again, another fantastic character from Nic Cage in the action movie Bruckheimer name generator. And he makes an impassioned plea for him to get back. He's out of the game, Mike. He gave it all up because it's too risky.
Right.
So he begs Nick to get back in the game and help Kip, avoid this by helping these cars get stolen to make it up to him. I noticed right away here that Will Patton's got a Pepsi, Mike.
Yeah, there's a couple Pepsi ad placements.
Conveniently placed so the logo is facing the camera right through his chubby little fingers. And it confirms one of the rules that we've established here on Grumpy Nostalgia, that if you see a Pepsi or a Pepsi logo in that movie, it ain't good. The Pepsi nor the movie. So once again, reinforced. So Kip's got a death mark, and he wants Cage to help kind of come back. He begrudgingly accepts after coming home and talking to Mama and talking to Kip and understanding. They have a little family reunion, and it's tearful and it's emotional, Mike. And here we go. So then we get on to the next phase, this Shakespearean format where they build the team, Mike. They put the team together.
Oh yeah.
So this is where we get
montage.
To Robert Duvall and a bunch of bumbling kids. My favorite part of this movie, Mike? You know what Robert Duvall's character's name is?
Oh yeah, was it Roy?
No. Otto. See, to get it, see what they did there, Mike? It's not Autto. It's Otto. Funny, yes. Right? Otto. Otto Mike.
He's an automatic pilot from Airplane.
Yeah, and he's the old Yoda type that knows how things get done, and he puts the team together. And this is what, in a true Bruckheimer fashion, they really push the stereotypes. This is where white writers write for black comics, because they think they know what's going on. So it's a little bit stereotypes, racial stereotypes. Like the line about Chi McBride doesn't go swimming in the pool because his black ass doesn't get in the pool. That's funny. And then of course he's a driving instructor, and you get introduced to him because he's got an Asian woman who can't drive very well. That's funny, right?
That's funny.
Yeah. So meanwhile, there's some grizzled detectives, LA detectives, Delroy Lindo and Timothy Oliphant, who've been tracking their old nemesis Cage for a long time, and they hear he's back in town, and
Memphis Brains. They just shake him
Brains.
down and talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, there's your subplot. So we've hit all the buttons for the formula so far. So in a genius move, they decide that they've got 72 hours to get all these cars, right? So they waste the first 48 and decide they're gonna boost all these cars in one night. So they spend one night getting prepped and kind of understanding where all the cars are and doing sort of reconnaissance. And then they say, well, let's just wait to the third act to steal all the cars because that'll make the movie go faster. So that's exactly what they do. And it's just a bunch of, shenanigans, and they run into all the team members come across various, like, it's a mad world type scenarios where this car crashes here, this car's got a person in it, or this car's got drugs in it, or
dog eats keys. Yeah,
the dogs eat the keys. And so here's a continuity problem, Mike. Just the one I found, right?
Yeah, just one.
That's a joke. There's probably 500. All this deal they make about those laser cut keys, how they can't find them anywhere. When the dog finally poops out the keys, they decide they're going to go back, and rather than steal the ones that were on the list, they have to steal the ones that were in compound in the police station,
impound lot, in
the impound lot, right? But maybe I fell asleep or dozed off during. But was there any point where they actually stole those Mercedes out of the police impound lot? Did I miss that?
What I don't understand, I would understand is how come they still had those keys.
Yeah.
Because the cars were impounded when they were first caught at the very start of the movie.
Yeah. So my point is, for such a silly, dumb movie, they wasted a lot of time on this laser cut key thing, and there was never any payoff from that. But that's okay. There's loud rock music and hip hop and cars driving fast. So what else do you want, right?
I will say the pace of the movie keeps you from thinking too much about.
Yeah, I didn't have time to contemplate how stupid it was because I had to keep up with the next stupid thing, right?
They got 50 cars, Justin. They got to get them all.
50, right? Okay. So there's another thing here where they steal a Cadillac, and it says there's a subtitle in the movie that says it's Friday at 5 a.m. Yet there's a party going on. A pool party and it's dark.
It's like 3 hours left to go. It's like, wait, that means it's 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling.
So we all know that of all the 50 cars, the chase item here, the big get is the Shelby Mustang. Yeah. And her name's they named all the cars females so they can speak in code. So I can't find Linda. I got Susan. I just boosted, Charlene. But the GT Shelby is named Eleanor, Mike.
Yeah, it's very special.
It's a very special car because there's a backstory. Because Nicolas Cage has some mysterious backstory with the Shelby, right?
Yeah,
it's so mysterious they can't figure out what it is, and they never tell you about it. But so
and they allude to a lot of his backstory, but they never really flashback it at all.
Yeah. So these buttholes figure out a way to get 49 cars, right? And it's like, they're like 30 minutes left Sunday morning at 8 o'clock to get the last car. And Cage is conveniently just kept in a parking garage. And he just jimmies the door open and literally just hot wires the car, just the traditional Hollywood hot wire thing, and drives off with it. But of course, this is when all the chickens come home to roost, Mike. So the cops have caught up with him at this point. And the bad guys have caught up with him at this point. So it's this big chase. And then the entire third act is just essentially just 20 minutes of carnage. Him driving through Los Angeles with the police in tow. And, of course, they're on a bridge. And, of course, there's a conveniently placed hauler that's got a ramp on it.
Oh, it has to be tilted right up.
Just the right angle. And Cage decides he's just going to jump.
He only has 4 minutes.
Yeah. And like the minute you saw that hauler with that ramp, he's like, oh, he's going to jump that thing.
Yeah. As soon as you see it tilted toward
Can we just, yeah, because they showed it to you like 20 minutes earlier. It's like, just jump it now, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm good. Don't worry about me. Just do it. So he jumps it and he brings the car to the place where they're impounding the cars and putting them in shipping crates, and he ends up being 12 minutes late. Ray Calitri, who's a woodworker, Mike.
I don't understand that.
I completely, this one I completely understand, because it's their attempt to introduce irony. Because at the beginning of the movie, he showed this wonderful casket he's so proud of.
Ugh.
And I'm like, oh man, wouldn't it be weird if he like died in that casket?
That's gonna come into play later, right?
So just to play it out, there's this big finale at the foundry or the mill. Or, of course,
I'm sorry, I didn't let it play out. I was going to sit back.
Let this play out. Of course, there's always a foundry, factory, mill thing. That's how all these movies have to end. Of course, no one's working there, but all the
it's an amazing amount of pipe work for a salvage yard.
It sure is, right?
It's like it looks more like an oil refinery. I'm like, what do y'all do here exactly?
Yeah. So, and of course, there's some cat and mouse here between Calitri and Cage, and there's some fighting and some random stuntman blows, and then Delroy comes in with locked and loaded, ready to take down. And of course, the Calitri attempts at his life, and then Cage ends up saving Delroy's life, and then he owes him. He throws a Calitri off the balcony, and he lands in that coffin, Mike.
Just about, yeah.
It's just sort of it. The only thing that kept me in suspense was he didn't land entirely precisely in the coffin.
Yeah, I'll give him that. That was pretty good.
So I'll give him that for originality. So
anyway, it looked like a coffin that could only hold like Billy Barty or Peter Dinklage. I mean, it was like they did it look small to you? I was just
Eccles is like 6'10" too.
Yeah.
Going to Billy Barty's coffin. Well, okay. So that's it. That's the irony. And then Delroy says, "Hey, you saved my life. I knew why you were doing what you're doing. You're a good guy. I'm gonna just you could
go now before I change my mind."
Yeah, you go now. Yeah. Before I change my mind. I love that line. Everybody always says that. They begrudgingly accept respect from each other, and then the movie ends with them having a big old barbecue, Mike, and the gang gives Nicolas Cage, Memphis Reigns in this case, they give him a Shelby of his very own.
And you know what they had at the barbecue, Justin? Lots of Pepsi.
Lots of Pepsi.
I feel like I was watching Madam Web all over again.
And then, so of course, he gets into the car with Sway, who's played by
Quirky,
by Miss Angelina, who we didn't talk about a whole lot here. Sorry, but she
like
was
I said earlier.
Just kind of eye candy here. So.
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
It's very cute, but that was her role. And they drive off into the sunset, and of course the Shelby dies. And Nic Cage says, "Oh, please don't do this to me." And I said the same thing.
And
then they start yet another music montage, and it's there. I think there's only about probably 8 to 12 seconds of silence in this movie, Mike. Which again was the point. And we have not come to bury this movie, folks. We actually did kind of enjoy this, but it's exceedingly dumb. Yeah. But it is a B movie, and it served its purpose, and that's what it was. But
this movie was not made with the intention of being high art.
Yeah, no. But I gotta say, for most of the Nicolas Cage movies we've watched, he's his least Nicolas Cagey in this movie. He's not too crazy. He's not too over the top.
No, I know.
He's a little grounded here. I mean,
yeah, it's funny. I actually
there's nothing memeable about him in this movie. So
the only thing is the pause to listen to the stupid lowrider song and put on his jacket, and then he has that moment where he does a little hand thing. He goes, "Okay, let's ride."
Yeah.
That was his "let's get nuts" kind of moment. That's the only thing in the movie really that was kind of memeable, but it was.
But all right, so. We'll talk about our feelings about it, but for the most part, guys, fun. Let's be honest, right? So let's talk about awards and accolades a little bit. So this had a $25 million opening, so there you go. That's pretty big. Movies used to make a lot of money back when they were released consistently. Had a domestic haul of $102 million, which was kind of the benchmark back then for a successful movie, blockbuster type, and then it had a good release worldwide, $237 million.
Okay.
So international audience we praised earlier, you're at fault. You helped make this successful. It got some MTV nominations, Mike, for the best action scene, but it lost to Mission Impossible 2. It won 3 Stinkers Awards, Mike. Screenplay. They had some interesting categories. It's the worst screenplay with a movie over $100 million. It won most intrusive music score.
Okay. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, and it was nominated for worst hairstyle for Angelina Jolie, but she lost, sadly.
Oh. Wow. I bet she lost to John Travolta in Battlefield Earth.
I did follow up with that, Mike.
I'm not gonna look it up. I can almost guarantee.
But as far as the awards go, it was either for MTV or bad stuff. So which I think are hand in hand.
I like those categories though.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some more research because the stinkers bad movies are always showing up on these awards and accolades, especially the movies we talk about. So
what's funny is I know the Fast and Furious movies too are probably more liked by international audiences than domestic. So I'm guessing this had that same kind of, like you were saying, the international audience seemed to like it.
Yeah, that's a good way to step on my next joke, Mike. So they had 11 sequels all called Fast and Furious.
That's what, after watching this, I'm like, my gosh, I know this was successful because it was a nice summer release. It's surprising it didn't have a sequel or even like a prequel movie, based on what they were saying about the Memphis Reigns character. Nic Cage did this. He did this before he retired.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's no reason there can't be 30 of these movies, to be honest with you. So, oh well. So it was fun. People love cars, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. So, Mike, let's run through our grumpy meter. That's the part of the show where we talk about the movies we watched as younger men, almost boys, and then we review them again as grumpy old jerks and see what changed. So, Mike, why don't you take us first? Oh yeah, give me your take on it. So
sure. I did not see this in theaters like I was previous. I think, like I said, I was still suffering maybe from a previous movie I saw that year. But also I had no interest in seeing a movie about cars. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I don't the whole premise of a Jerry Bruckheimer movie where people are stealing cars, I don't think resonated with me at the time. So hey, I didn't want to see it. But it's
you spent that penny with Days of Thunder, and that was it, right? Pretty
much, yeah. I was, even that movie I had.
Yeah, you kind of bailed on that, if I recall, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it was. I didn't want to see a movie about NASCAR at the time. But yeah, it was like you say, it was almost a kind of a B movie, fluffy, turn your brain off movie, and it was. And in the end, it was fun to watch. Watching it now, it's what it is. It's not like you say. There's not a moment to even breathe or think in this movie, as far as just okay. Here's this scene. Here's this scene. Here's this scene. The directing is pretty bad. I'm not a judge of like good director. I can kind of tell what good cinematography, but I couldn't tell you what good editing would be. In this movie, I feel like I could tell it was badly directed. I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if that was mentioned in any of the reviews, but the music, just the selection of music, just rapid fire, bump, bump, bump. It was just too much for me to take. But in the end, it was, what was this, an hour and 57 minutes? It went by so quick. I was amazed.
Oh, yeah.
Once the credits came up, I was like, wow. But one of the reasons I didn't remember Christopher Eccleston in the cast earlier was because he was a very forgettable villain. And I think that's the biggest drawback for me in this movie, if I want to analyze it on a technical level. He's not a Hans Gruber kind of villain. He's very forgettable. His motive is stupid. His gang's a bunch of weenies. They get pushed over in like a minute. There's these two English Hockney guys. And why did they even bother trying to steal from this guy? They could have gone over there and just, broken his furniture and punched his guys in the face. And that would have been, I didn't understand. It didn't have the gravitas of like a big mafia organization was getting ready to
he's
bear
not
down.
really a villain so much as he was just a plot device. They had to have something to anchor why they needed to do this. So, and
in the end, they lose out on the $200,000, and that went down the drain. And the whole point of even stealing all the cars is like, wow, you told the police where they were anyway at the very end. So it was like, it just, I don't know, it left me a little flat. But hey, it did set itself up for a sequel, and that kind of surprised me. It did not happen. But
the fact that he denied the entire millions of dollars worth of cars because he was 10 minutes late on the highest value one I mean, no criminal in the worst mind's going to call off that deal, but whatever. So
He likes furniture.
he does. He loves furniture. He's very upset when they broke his chair.
No, not the chair. No.
Yeah, real tough. I sanded that myself. My spice rack.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm kind of like you, Mike. I was kind of nostalgic with this because I went through my media case and I actually bought a copy of this
Yeah,
on
we have it
DVD.
here. We have it here too. My wife
And
had bought it.
I had bought it from Blockbuster Video of all places. Remember they used to have like
Oh yeah, slightly used.
3 DVDs for $20 type thing, and we'd stock up because we thought they can't possibly have a better format than DVD, right? So how many of those do you have in your house, Mike? Probably just as bad as me.
Yeah.
But I remember me and my wife actually kind of liked this movie because it was one of those movies we watched when we first moved in together down here when we bought our house, and it was one of those things we just kind of enjoyed because it was just dumb entertainment. It's become more utilitarian for us now because, like I said, we only kind of watch this on fireworks-driven nights, and it's really to offset the noise from outside so our dogs can not have a heart attack. So, I mean, it's more therapeutic, really. But I enjoyed this movie. I'm trying to convince myself that I didn't, but I always did. I probably say I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I did not see it in the theater, but I did see it on the DVD. Watching it again for the show, I kind of took all that baggage into it and tried to look at it as a critic, or have a critical eye at least. And I just couldn't get past the fact that it just is what it is. And I don't like to use that phrase because I think it's too cliche. But it is a B movie that's meant to just, you sit down and say, okay, if you're pompous enough to dismiss this movie because it lacks art, you got a problem anyway, and you don't know really what you're doing. So this was made for the audience that would enjoy it, and it delivers. And that's really ultimately all a movie can really do at the end of the day, to use another one, right? So, but you got to respect a movie that knows what its audience wants and delivers it. It's almost praisable. It's overcooked ham, but it does its job. And I probably went up a little bit, maybe about a 4 out of 5. I just appreciate it more on those reasons, despite the fact that we've been ragging on it for the last 40 minutes. But,
I didn't really give it a star rating, but 3. I would say 3 out of 5. It's better. It's better than average.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I would say 3 out of 5 stars.
I will watch this again. So
it's funny. I was looking at our DVD collection. I have it between Gone Baby Gone and Good Will Hunting. So there you go.
There you go. Hey, what's between Con Air and Congo? Anything?
Luckily, I don't have either one of those.
All right. I'll take your word for it for now. So, I'm not a gearhead, Mike, and I know you're not, but, in my younger days, I thought, the only thing I've had about cars is I always wanted to drive a convertible, and I did until I got old, and I realized that it's 37 Celsius here every day, and it's too hot, and my butt's too big, and so I stopped caring about cars probably when I was probably about the time this movie came out, when I was 30. But people seem to really still love cars. And I've never understood it, but I've always respected people that have a passion for cars. And I know Hollywood has certainly cashed in on that passion and used that trope employed in several movies. There's always a great car movie. So we thought for this week's installment of You Just Made the List, Pal, we talk about Hollywood's love affair with cars and talk about some of our favorite movies featuring cars, or movies about cars, or movies where cars are the major point of the plot. So, Mike, why don't you head us off? Let's pick a few and maybe keep a few in reserve for honorable mentions. But let's talk about cars in cinema and their impact for you. So pick a few movies that kind of illustrate that point, Mike.
All right. This one was the most obvious because it was the first one that came to mind. And it's the 1980 movie Blues Brothers, starring a 1974 Dodge Monaco.
36 of them, as I recall.
I used quite a few of them. But it was the what was the town? You're the Chicago guy. That was what it was bought from an auction by Elwood as a former police car. I think it was from Mount
Prospect.
Prospect, yeah. He buys it at auction, and you follow that car the whole movie, and it's great because there's so many classic scenes in that movie that happen in that car. all the way to the very end where it just falls apart. Right?
Yeah, they
That
never
was
fix the cigarette lighter though.
no, right? But it's a fantastic movie, and
Yeah.
that car, like I say, kind of doesn't steal the movie, but without it, it wouldn't have been what it was. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with the Blues Brothers car.
That's a great one. So one of my first favorite movies about a car is one of my favorite filmmakers. We talked about him a few shows ago, Steven Spielberg. His first kind of movie role was not on the big screen. It was it was a TV movie
Yeah,
called Duel from 1971, featuring Dennis Weaver.
Weaver. There you go.
Yeah, featuring Dennis Weaver as a guy who's on a commute in the Southwest to go see his son, and he kind of cuts off a trucker who you never see during the entire film, which I think is genius. Yeah. And it's essentially this crazy road rage movie for 2 hours where the paranoia and the suspicion, and he's haunted and chased by this truck driver. And he actually pulls into the town, and he starts attacking people at a diner because they think he's the driver of the car, and they turn on him. And he's just going up and down the hills, and it's the ultimate thing at the end there where he kind of swerves his car off the cliff, and the driver plummets to his death. They still don't show you the driver, and it's just this, and everybody can relate because everybody's had it's been a road rage. I think Netflix does a movie every 3 years about road rage scenarios, but this was the original. I think it's the most well done. There's a great movie goof here too, where you can actually see Steven Spielberg's reflection in the gas pump, which is just brilliant. But the other favorite part of this is they use a lot of stock footage of this because it was a CBS TV movie. So if you ever I used to watch The Incredible Hulk a lot, and then whenever there was a car chase in The Incredible Hulk, they usually stole stock footage from Duel. Everybody had a red car, just like Dennis Weaver's car. and because I was a little nerd at the time, I said, "Hey, that's the car from Duel. That's from that movie." But yeah, so that was stock footage in CBS's catalog for a long time.
Every Mannix explosion.
Yeah. Mannix.
And you just reminded me of the Gone in 60 Seconds scene where they had the trivia about Bill Bixby.
Oh yeah.
That had to be from J.J. Abrams. Now that I think about it, that whole little thing. Ugh.
Yeah. So that's my first pick there. Duel from 1971.
All right. Number 2 on my list. This is another obvious one, but I apologize. This is another one. This was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and it was Smokey and the Bandit from 1977. It single-handedly got the Pontiac Trans Am with the Firebird logo on the hood. I remember that car just being so popular for at least a few years afterwards. And that car was so cool in that movie. It had the little T-top. You had Sally Field changing out of her wedding dress in it. It could outrun Buford T. Justice. And his car should get a second nomination because that police car just gets beat up more and more as the movie goes on. It loses, he loses the roof of his car. He loses his hood.
Is this 2 shows in a row and I can say Diablo sandwich?
Let me have a Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper. Make it fast. I'm in a goddamn hurry.
There you go. And the whole premise of the movie is so stupid now that I think about it. As a kid, you're watching it. I remember that at the time thinking, okay, well, Jerry Reed's driving a truck and Burt Reynolds is driving a Trans Am, and they're just going across the country. They're just trying to they're just playing around. They're trying to outrace the cops.
It's a long way to go.
You don't realize that
right?
the whole premise of the movie is just so a guy can drink Coors on the east side of the Mississippi. And it's kind of like the same. It's like finding out what the whole the movie Dog Day Afternoon was about. And you're like, wait a minute, that movie was about that? I had no idea. I thought it was just a bank robbery. And it's the same way with this movie. But I digress. My second pick, again, was a Pontiac Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit. Right.
That was a long way to go and a short time to get there.
There you go.
Good job.
Yes.
Nicely done. That's a great one. So my next pick is going to be kind of a off the shelf pick. I'm going to go with Fury Road, Mad Max from 2015. And I'm probably just doing it because it's fresh in my brain, because this was the next movie we watched after Gone in 60 Seconds was ended, because it was only 12:30 a.m. when that movie ended and the fireworks were still in tow. So we had to put another one in really quickly. And I was watching Furiosa the night before. I really enjoyed that. And my wife actually said, "Well, what is this? This is weird." I said, "Well, if you want to see some more like that, try this." and she likes Tom Hardy like I do. So we've done a lot of George Miller's movies on the podcast as well, Mike, and I have an unabashed passion for these movies. I can't explain why. Just the post-apocalyptic environment, the crazy cars, but the amazing stunt work here. There's very little CGI here, with the exception of some of the bodies flying, obviously for safety reasons. But most of these crashes are practical effects, and the driving's real. And I like his crazy, like, sped up camera work, and a nice big loud movie that's just, and the speed and the velocity and the furiousness of the action scenes here just really kind of hold you for the whole time. And it's literally, it's all guzzling, Mike. It's the whole, there's no slow stops in this movie. No. It's just all full on adrenaline, driving as fast as you can, smashing into things. And so that's my next pick, Fury Road from 2015.
Tom Hardy was in that?
Barely.
Sorry. All right. Let's do some honorable mentions here, Justin. I got Billy's Van from Laser Blast. It was the iconic 1970s kind of Econoline Chevrolet van, where all the kids had that. As soon as you open the door, like, the smoke pours out of it.
What was with the big footprints on the side, too?
That was part of the deal. And you got the little porthole on the side. Always love those. 1975 movie Death Race 2000, which I've mentioned before, has the coolest car ever invented, called Frankenstein, that, David Carradine drives around in. Excellent. Jefferson's Camaro from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It was one of those scenes that, as a kid, or I watched a little bit later, maybe as a teenager, but it stuck out in my mind that they, Spicoli and the little brother destroy the car, and then to motivate Jefferson, they say that this other high school drove it around and beat up his prize Camaro. Yeah, and he just beats the snot out of the other team, and that's one of the greatest scenes ever. When he's playing football against his other team, and they're like, no, don't hit me. Great scene, but they messed up Jefferson's car.
Yeah. His brother's gonna shit.
That's right.
Brother's gonna kill us.
He's gonna kill us. Then he's gonna shit. Then he's gonna kill us.
Make up your mind, dude. Is he gonna shit or is he gonna kill us?
First he's gonna shit, then he's gonna kill us.
The Monkees, the TV show. I mentioned this only because they had the same. My very first car was a Pontiac, and they had a Pontiac in the opening scene of the Monkees that they drove around in. Obscure. But my third choice is going to be Better Off Dead. You had Lane? You had Lane's car.
Lane Meyer's car.
I think it was a Camaro, and it spends
'67 Camaro.
It spends most of the movie under a tarp.
Yeah,
and he and the French girl work on it's kind of their bonding, where they work on the car together and finally get it to work at the very end. And
there's three music montages around that car.
I know, and they finally out-drag the Japanese guy, and I love it. It's great, of the Howard Cosell voice. But Lane's '67 Camaro from Beth.
You're speaking my language, man. That's Beth said that was a tasty car, Mike, and she was right.
It was. It speaks the language of love, apparently.
It does. I'm real sorry his mom blew up too. That's sad.
Yeah.
All right, that's a great one, man. Super. All right, so I have a couple honorable mentions too before I get to my final pick. So, sticking to our podcast theme, speed. I think you got to put speed in the conversation.
Yeah, I thought about that, Bus.
Yeah, you got the trinity of Stephen King movies here that are great about cars. You had Maximum Overdrive, of course, Christine. And I think Cujo could be put in there because they spend the majority of that movie in a car. It's not typical, but that car is a feature player in that movie. Another one I really liked was especially shades of the Shelby here, the Ford versus Ferrari from 2019. I thought that was a fantastic historical tale about how Mr. Shelby developed that car to compete against the Italian Ferraris and Le Mans, and it's just a great story. And that was one of my favorites here as well. I had the Blues Brothers too. But my third and final pick is going to be a little left of center here, Mike. And I've talked about this movie a few times, but it's called A Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yes.
Stanley Kramer directed it in 1963. And this is one of those movies that it's very nostalgic for me because I remember me and my sisters spent the night at an aunt and uncle's house one night for some reason. I don't know why. I think my mom and dad were out doing something. And my uncle we were watching the CBS late night movie, and it was this movie, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
It always came on late at night.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was always a late at night movie, and we had the freedom of staying up as a kid is one of those. It's paramount. You remember a lot of those experiences for some reason because you weren't usually allowed to do it. But this was like a 3-hour epic, and I remember it went on till like midnight at the time. But for those unfamiliar with the plot, it's these 5 cars are on the Southern California highways and. It's
under a big W.
Yeah. And Jimmy Durante, his car flies off the cliff, and his dying words to these 5 people that go to aid and abet him says, "There's $350,000 of my money buried under a big W in Santa Rosita State Park." And what was so fun, it's one of the greatest comedies ever made. It features like everybody who was in Hollywood at that time. So there's cameos, but there's 5 major plot lines, and they all have their own kind of unique vehicle, but they all drive away from the guy thinking he's crazy. But within like 3 or 4 miles, they cut to each passenger in their car, and they start talking about, we think he was serious about that. And of course, the human condition is that the greed kicks in, and it's essentially just a 3-hour car chase. So these guys are making the beeline to Santa Rosita to see if they can't find this money, and they pick up strangers and extra people along the way, and there's crashes, and they all come to their own ends at some point or another. Jonathan Winter is one of the drivers, and I mean, it's just it would take forever to give the details, but the stunt driving in here and some of the aerial footage was really creative. But some the cars and the stunt driving in this movie are fantastic, and the whole movie is just moving all the time, and it's hilarious. And so this is going to be my favorite car movie of all time. It's Mad, 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 Mad World from 1963. Go check it out, guys.
Good one.
Yeah. All right, so I'm
proud of you for not mentioning Cannonball Run, by the way.
I didn't even come into my mind. I don't know why.
Good. Keep it out of there.
Well, yeah, I wanted to cover a Mel Tillis, Terry Bradshaw movie for a long time, Mike. So maybe this may.
I want a Jim Neighbors movie personally. So that was
we'll see if I can make that work. All right, so we should have been gone in 60 seconds on this one, Mike, but we went too long again. So just a couple messages for our team as we kind of exit out of here. Remember to check us out. Me and Mike are featured on our social media page. That's Grumpy Nostalgia on Instagram. Send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. If you do that, send us your mailing address, and we will send you a bunch of free crap we've accumulated over the years, show merchandise and things. So we just want to get to know you guys, start our newsletter at some point. So if you're interested, send us an email to that address, and we will send you a bunch of our crap for free. You can check out our YouTube channel. We put a couple of new movies up on there. These are actual video companions to our podcast. The latest one is Tomb Raider, featuring me and Mike's mugs for the majority of the movie. But we're trying to get some more content on there as well. If you should happen to listen to our podcast on our website, the Buzzsprout site, they've added a new feature there where you can send us a text message right below the title of the podcast. So if you ever want to send us a little message telling us how terrible we are or how great we are, just optimize that function on the Buzzsprout webpage and send us a little message and tell you what's going on. We'd appreciate to hear from you. All right, so that's going to kind of wrap it up, Mike. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
As soon as I get home, first thing I'll do is put your mama in the mouth.
Well, I found that there's too many self-indulgent wieners in the city, Mike's. Wieners. All right, so that'll wrap it up, guys. So for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time. Room.
Without disappointment, you can't appreciate victory.